All right, finally back to American news. The new Speaker of the House, who, as far as I could tell, was no real difference from McCarthy so far, has done something that McCarthy refused to do, something that McCarthy promised he would do and then didn't, and that is release, I think, the rest of the footage from January 6th. There is something like 44,000 hours of video, and the House is now releasing it. I don't know if all 44,000 hours is on the website, but they're putting it up online. You can go see it for yourself. People are clipping it, putting it all over the place. And it's going to take some time for people, not us, because I'm not doing any of the work, for people to go through, watch all the 44,000 hours, and pick out really interesting nuggets of detail, which, needless to say, would have done a lot to help the January 6th political prisoners in their show trials, where they were denied access to evidence, to exculpatory evidence, which is, supposed to be a crime, but it's not a crime when the government does it. But now maybe it'll help them in their appeals and the people who are still awaiting trial, because we don't have a Bill of Rights that guarantees us, a right to a speedy trial in this country. Cough, cough. And so those folks are rotting away in jail, not even prison, some of them. And the venue is, even if they have all the evidence on their side, which most of them do, the venue is one in which all of the jurors and all the judges, so you're screwed either way, whether you go for bench trial or jury trial, they all hate you. They want you to rot in prison for the rest of your life. They don't just hate you, they hate your family and your children too. So even if they hate you, they don't feel bad about, taking away, let's say, a parent from one or more children, even small children, because in America we are ruled by the worst among us. That is the nature of democracy. You end up with the most evil people in society, the most craven and depraved. Those are who end up on top, because everyone else is trying to do something productive with their lives. Even, the laziest private citizen they are of greater benefit to society or less of a drain on society than the supposedly most noble public servant. And so thankfully now the facts are out. The evidence is out. We know what happened on January 6th, at least what happened on the surface. We don't have all the details for what happened under the surface. But we'll probably learn that in time, perhaps a couple of decades. But we don't really need that directly, because we see what happened with our own eyes. We don't need to know the background. You can just look at the footage, and people can clip out things here or there. The biggest innovation in the January 6th story, or I guess the biggest breakthrough would be the better phrase, was and still is Ray Epps and the footage of him on January 6th. Not because Ray Epps himself necessarily is the most significant figure. It's not like Ray Epps was the mastermind of the whole thing, but he showed that there was some provocateurship. And I bet after all this footage is reviewed, people will start to discover that there were other potential provocateurs acting in a capacity similar to Mr. Ray Epps, and that he was not just some one-off character who is beloved by the media and praised as an American hero by the likes of, what was that NAFO troll from Illinois, Adam Kinzinger. So I'd like to, before I forget, say a little thanks to Mr. Matt Gaetz, Republican from Florida's 1st Congressional District, I believe, over in Pensacola. He got a lot of flack for introducing the motion to vacate the chair, as it's called, to get rid of Speaker Kevin McCarthy. All of the chaos that ensued post McCarthy removal. a lot of GOP sympathizers were, and by that I mean that in the worst way possible, by the way. I don't mean Republican voters. I mean people who sympathize with the Republican Party leadership. They were absolutely irate with Matt Gaetz. But in the end, Mike Johnson ended up becoming Speaker. I was not excited about that. I said, well, you got rid of McCarthy, but it doesn't seem like this guy's much of an upgrade. Hey, well, at least in this one respect, he was an upgrade. So if this is all that we get out of Mike Johnson's speakership, nothing else good happens, you just get January 6 tapes released, well, that's better than McCarthy. So that means that what Matt Gaetz did on net, good thing. So good job, Mr. Gaetz. Now, hopefully this Mike Johnson guy ends up having a couple of other good moments maybe in his over the time that he is Speaker of the House between now and 2025. Who knows if the GOP will still control the House after that. That's questionable. It was just somebody was asking me, hey, you think Trump's going to win next year? It's like, well, who the hell knows what even the important issue is going to be of the day by the time the next election rolls around. We've got a year until then, and I think the most important issue in the country is going to probably change, 5 to 10 times between now and then. Oh, it could change 50 times. And so it depends on what the big issue is around the time of the election. If the big issue around the time of the election is something that is, very favorable for Trump, let's say that we have, a new Great Depression or something like that, maybe that would help Trump, and maybe old Trump will be able to capitalize on that. So who the hell knows what's going to go on down at the level of the House or the Senate. I mean, there is a chance that if this Mike Johnson guy actually got serious and gave the voters things that, they were passionate about, well, then, the Republicans might actually gain a few seats in the House. But I'm not there yet. I'm not seeing it. January 6th thing, that's nice. That's one thing. It's a small thing for the average person, because the average person is not really paying attention to something that happened, let me check my watch, 2.5 years ago. The average person doesn't care. It doesn't affect their lives. Care about things that affect them personally. But I'm not saying it doesn't matter. It does matter very much for the historical record. It's important to expose lies. But it's a rather quaint issue. Unlike, let's say, cost of living or World War III. Biden put out Biden in quotes. It says an op-ed by Joe Biden in the Washington Post. Who the hell knows wrote it? It's talking about Hamas and Putin in the same breath, and talking about how we got to commit to stopping Putin and Hamas. Meaning we're going to fund an endless war in Ukraine, of course, and we're going to fund an endless war in Israel. And that these two wars are part of the same conflict. These are the same thing. It's the same thing. What Putin's doing in Ukraine is the same as what Hamas is doing in Israel. I mean, just insanity. There is no analog between the two other than they're both opposed to the United States. And why are they opposed to the United States? Well, it's because the U.S. Is involved in both of their affairs, and the U.S. has decided to take the opposing side from their own. So why is Putin opposed to the U.S.? Well, it's because the U.S. has been meddling in Ukraine and undermining Russia's interests. Well, why is Hamas opposed to the United States? Well, it's because the U.S. Has been funding Israel for decades and decades and decades, and Israel uses that money and influence to wage war on the Arabs. In neither case were we, the United States, just sitting over here in America minding our own business, and then all of a sudden this obscure small terrorist group in Israel, Hamas, decided we hate America. And it's not like out of the blue, Vladimir Putin, just a random president in Russia, decided out of the blue, I hate America. We are involved in both of their affairs, and that's the only thing they have in common. Other than that, Hamas and Putin, um, there's just not a lot of overlap. They have a common enemy, and that is the United States of America. So if we actually still have a war going on in Ukraine and a war going on between Israel and Hamas in Gaza, and who knows how many, will there be any people left in Gaza by the time that the next election rolls around? Will anyone be alive, or will have Israel just bombed all 2 million of them into oblivion? If they keep going at a steady rate, let's say there was let's just round up and say 10,000 in the first month. If Israel continues at that rate, there will be something like 120,000 dead by the next election. There will be a lot of people left in Gaza. So that's 1.2 or 120,000 out of 2 million. So it will definitely be a live issue. It's not like Israel will have wiped out Gaza. If their goal, as many Israeli leaders have said, is to just wipe Gaza off the face of the earth, exterminate their population, drive them into the sea or into the Sinai, that's going to take a while. And so perhaps old Trump will be able to capitalize on that. Hopefully, if he has that much time, he will come around to a little better position. He is very, very shaky on that stuff as far as I'm concerned. I don't trust him one bit. If he were president today, I would feel better than I do with Biden in there. But I would not feel comfortable. Anyone who's been a long-time listener to this channel knows that I was very uncomfortable with everything he did surrounding Iran. That was just, the brinksmanship was way too up close and personal, as far as I'm concerned. Even though Trump never went over the edge, and I don't think intended to. I think that he was just coming right up to the brink, as the name implies. But anyway, with that said, I will see you folks back here tomorrow.